So, what is transformation? Well, transformation is a process. It's a series of steps, a journey that creates radical change and produces quantum leaps in outcome. And transformation occurs at all levels of scale. It can occur at the individual level, in relationship, teams can transform, organizations can clearly transform, and so can communities or nations or even the world.
The easiest way to contrast transformation, to further understand it, is to compare it to the other types of change that are going on in our organizations and are very prevalent today. There's developmental change, which is an improvement upon an existing way of operating. We live in this box, we just want to do better of what's happening in this box. The second kind of change is transitional change. We have an existing way of operating, it's got problems. We solve those problems and come up with a new way of operating, a solution. And then we travel through a transitional process where we're dismantling our current state and putting in place the new state. And that is very applicable to project management. On a timeline, we can undo and redo, transitional change.
And change management is also very supportive of that process.
Yeah, very much so. Handling the people dynamics of learning something new and putting it in place, for sure. Then there's transformation, which is basically creating something that's never been done before, creating something that's profoundly different. So the first critical thing that we understand about transformation is we don't have a clear solution in mind, concrete, to put into place when we begin. We start the change process before we know where we're actually going. What does that mean? It means an emergent process. It means learning and course correcting as we go. It means a different kind of leadership, because the whole organization has to be engaged in figuring it out as we go. We may alter the ultimate place we get to because we're learning along the way. The other critical feature of transformation is that mindset and culture are critical drivers of it. You can't just change a structure without addressing the human dimension of mindset shifting, culture shifting, relationship shifting, ways of working shifting, behavior, etc. So the human dynamic is not a bolt-on, it's not an afterthought, it's critically built into this transformational strategy from the beginning.
So in each of these types of change, there's three critical areas that are at play in all three of them. The first we call content, and that's the tangible aspects of the organizations that's changing. Might be structure, might be systems, business processes, etc.
So out of that reality, one of the core, most basic approaches that we use is that in discovering why so many change efforts would fail, is that most organizations and most leaders just dealt with the solution. Give me the answer. Tell me, here's my issue, here are the dynamics at play, here's what we have to overcome, give me the answer, and go to action first. And what we realize is what we call that as the content of the change. So content is critical, but it's not all that there is. So we also address people. And we frequently lay this out graphically as a three-legged stool. There's the content leg, there's the people leg, which is who is going to change and how do they personally need to change in terms of their reactions to the change, their willingness to invest in it, their mindsets, their behavior, their relationships. The whole people leg of the stool. And frequently it's change management that's addressing the people leg of the stool. And content experts are over here separate, addressing the content leg.
Fundamentally, the third aspect of every type of change is process. And process are the activities by which we design and then implement the content, and we deal with all the human dynamics. Now, from a process standpoint in transformation, we have to use a unified process. Everything has to be integrated so that we're building momentum, because the way in which we design and then implement, execute, follow up on, and sustain our content changes, again, the way we do that is one of the key strategies in the way we bring mindset and culture to a new level. Right? So we don't use old mindset and culture in terms of how we design the process of change. We use new mindset and culture so that we're actually modeling the transformation as we go. And those are the key components of any type of change. Again, content, people, and process, and they're radically different, require different strategies, requirements, leadership, etc. in transformation. And 60 to 70% of transformations fail because leaders consistently use traditional, conventional, developmental, or transitional ways in applying the transformation, and that's insufficient and inadequate.
So, one of the critical things that we want to share with you is what you need to learn about and pay attention to and build into your transformational strategy. So we have another model that we call the Conscious Change Leadership Accountability Model, because leaders and consultants of transformation are accountable to address all of these factors. So it's an easy model that summarizes what to pay attention to and build into your plan. So the best way of looking at that is that there are 4 critical areas that we address. There's the human dimension of mindset individually. There's the human dimension of behavior, what we actually do, the skills we have, how we use information. There's the cultural dynamic, which is also part of the human dimension, our norms, our ways of relating, the ways in which we operate as teams. And then there's the content, all this content stuff that we've been talking about, what we call the systems. In the systems quadrant, it's all the solution stuff. It's all the content stuff, structure, systems, business process, frameworks that we need to address and build in. All of that is mapped in what we call the 4 quadrants. Ken Wilber really created a 4-quadrant model that has helped, that we've embellished on, that has helped understand what we need to pay attention to. All of the 4 quadrants, mindset, behavior, culture, and systems, all apply at different levels of scale. So individual, relationship, team, department, organization, and ultimately community and the world beyond. So a part of our strategy, if those levels of system are engaged in what we're transforming, we need to understand and work with the dimensions of mindset, behaviors, culture, and systems. Now, all of that is integrated into the process, as Dean has said, an integrated process, which helps us attend to, work with, solve problems, mitigate issues. It's all about consciously designing the process. So a core competency that we teach in our system of transformation is conscious process design, adapted specifically for transformation and the emergent nature of it as we proceed. So the Conscious Change Leader Accountability Model is one way of holding all the dimensions that have to be addressed. So our awareness is critical, that we know how to pay attention to each of these things.
Fundamentally, we got to know how to transform those things. So what that means is we've got to raise the quality of change leadership. We need change leaders who have big minds, if you will. In other words, big enough perspectives to see all that complexity, not get overwhelmed by it, and have that internal centeredness to then be able to use good, sound transformational strategies and know what they are and how to deploy them so that they can organize the process of transformation from start to finish and deliver the breakthrough results thereafter.